We're going to turn our attention now to the international newspapers. Diptyka Laurent joins us in studio for that. And Diptyka, in fact, you're picking up on this story of that plastic pollution talks getting underway in Geneva. Quite a specific story on some of the front pages here in France.
Yeah, that's right. As that gathering in Geneva gets underway, Libération, the French newspaper today, turns its attention to this poison that it calls mermaid tears. It's a term also known as plastic pellets. They're small in size and on purpose, about 1 to 5 millimeters, which make them easier to transport. They're classed as primary microplastics used in everything from single-use water bottles to TV sets. Often they're released en masse from industrial sites. They travel either through pipes or land, end up on the coastlines and riverbanks all over the world. In the EU alone, Libération says around 184,000 tons of these microplastics escape into nature each year. Also through land spills. One particularly devastating incident in 2021, a cargo ship sank off the coast of Sri Lanka, releasing into the sea 11,000 tons of this industrial plastic, which almost immediately killed the fauna. Sea turtle eggs, for instance, were crushed under the weight of the plastic. And also, the paper explains, as it travels, it collects noxious toxins on its surface, which are ingested by fish and crustaceans, in turn ingested by humans. And so the vicious spiral continues, Eve.
Yeah, that sounds just all kinds of negative and only negative. But let's move on now, Diptyka, to some tech news. Silicon Valley has entered its hard tech era, the New York Times says. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's this very eloquently written article here from the New York Times' correspondent, Mike Isaac. He's been a tech reporter for 15 years. He says 10, 15 years ago, Silicon Valley was in its 2.0 era, building on consumer internet, streaming music services, photo sharing, that kind of thing. It was the antithesis of corporate America with its colorful beanbags and free employee restaurants and flexible work schedules. Well, that Silicon Valley is now mostly ancient history, he says. Today, tech is harder, the perks are fewer, and the mood is much more serious. Hiring has slowed, and those who do have a job are met with watchful eyes by management. And the political dial has also shifted rightwards. They're conservative socially, but still anti-government when it comes to business regulation.
Okay. Meanwhile, a former CNN journalist has created controversy after interviewing an AI avatar of a young man who was in fact killed in a school shooting 8 years ago.
Well, Jim Acosta, former CNN White House correspondent, released this video on his X feed yesterday, an interview with an AI avatar of Joaquin Oliver, a 17-year-old boy who was killed in 2018 in a school shooting at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. Let's take a look at that video, and then we can talk about the reaction to it. Take a look.
Joaquin, I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Great question. I believe in a mix of stronger gun control laws, mental health support, and community engagement. We need to create safe spaces for conversations and connections, making sure everyone feels seen and heard.
So Eve, that's just a little snippet of that video. You can see it's clearly AI. It's got unnatural, jerky movements, but it's also the effect of it. Now, Oliver was, as I said, 17 when he was killed. Now, this AI avatar was conceived by his parents on what would have been his 25th birthday. And the idea was to send a very strong message about gun violence. They had also specifically requested that Jim Acosta interview him. It's very controversial, nonetheless. It stirred a lot of criticism about, I think, on many levels. Many saying, why wasn't he able to interview a survivor of that school shooting rather than using this murky technology?
Yeah, lots of questions there, Diptyka. Finally, from you, though, she was the first woman to head any intelligence agency, and in particular the MI5. Dame Stella Rimington has died.
And the press is awash with obituaries to Dame Stella Remington today. The first woman to head MI5. She died at the age of 90, surrounded by her family at her home. Now, her history is really interesting. Her story, rather, is really interesting. She started at MI5 in 1967, quite by accident, when, I quote, as a bored housewife, she became a part-time typist at the MI5 office in the British High Commission in New Delhi. During her time, as she rose through the ranks to eventually become chief of MI5 in 1992, she faced Russian agents and the IRA, as well as domestic subversives like the leaders of the 1984 miners' strike. In 1996, she left MI5 and actually became a spy novelist. She even had a stint at Marks and Spencer's where she eavesdropped, you might read that as spied, on customers discussing products. Remington was also reportedly the woman who inspired Q in the James Bond movies, Eve.
Okay, Diptyka, we'll have to leave it there, but thanks a lot for that. That brings us to the end of this edition. Do take care.